Hello everyone and welcome back to another album review, and in this video I'm going to review Fresh Books by Justice Yeldham. In my opinion, the Justice Yeldham project has to be one of the weirdest, one of the most obscure and one of the most extreme acts of this decade. For those of you who are not familiar with the sound of Justice Yeldham with some of his previous releases or with some of his live performances that some of them are available on YouTube, Justice Yeldham is an artist that creates noise music which to itself does not sound all that extreme, but what's the extreme factor and the shock value is the way he does it. What he does is that he puts a contact mic into big pieces of glass. This contact mic is processed through lots of different pedals, adding distortion, delay, reverb, I don't know, he might probably use tons of stuff. And then he creates noise by blowing the piece of glass and biting it into various positions. The shock value comes when he hurts himself. You can also see in some of his performances that his mouth bleeds as he pushes his lips with power against the piece of glass. He also bites it with his teeth. He breaks the pieces of glass with his mouth, and then he might end up just breaking the piece of glass in his head. You can find lots of his live performances in YouTube. It's not for the faint of heart though. This dangerous and shocking act sounds like something really stupid, but there's something genius behind it in my opinion. It's truly a unique and different way of portraying noise music, and it also feels so weird to come up with this idea. You're like, well, what am I gonna do? Oh, I know, I'm gonna take a piece of glass, I'm going to just squeeze a contact mic in it, I'm going to just put it through lots of pedals, and I'm just gonna make noise with this piece of glass, and I'm also gonna bite it, and I'm also gonna hurt myself. Because I don't know how, but somehow he knows how to control himself, to hurt himself with this piece of glass, but not to a very dangerous point. But outside of this project, just for having this as a sort of a shock value, Justice Yeldham seems to just know how to just process and craft sounds. If you don't like the idea of watching someone break a piece of glass with his own mouth and also bleeding all over his face, I also saw in his Facebook page a few years back that he also made a flipper machine with multiple compressors, effects, and the idea is for the ball to hit in lots of different places just like with your usual flipper, but in each portion it triggers a different sound and it makes a different noise. That's in my opinion one of the most genius things in the underground. The point where Justice Yeldham seemed to become a little bit more popular was his inclusion and feature in 2 tracks on the last Death Grips album. This made a lot of people discover about this artist and go like, what the fuck is that? I personally though knew about Abela's project before he became a little bit famous with the whole Death Grips thing. Now when it comes to Abela aka Justice Yeldham, I really love the whole idea behind it. I find it really refreshing, and even though I'm just concerned for him just in order not to be in danger, it's definitely a show that I would love to see. But after all of that huge introduction that I did so far, getting into some of his studio albums, I don't think that they managed to capture all that well what Abela is actually capable of. Just listening to the idea of this project, what does it sound more appealing, or in this case more unappealing to you? Is it to see a live performance of him and know with which way he just creates all of these weird sounds, or to have no picture and just sound? Even if you don't want to see that because of its shock value, the sound of it can be horrifying as well, and without the image, it doesn't have all that much of the same experience. So in my opinion, this particular project works better in the live format rather than the studio one. Don't get me wrong though, I think that some of the musical palettes and some of his sounds do work really well as just a sort of obscure noise project. The sounds he produces out of blowing glass can be really weird. In a sense, they could be quite silly. In some occasions, the way he blows the glass might sound like an out-of-tune saxophone, for example, or just a really weird way of just producing a horn section. There's a chaotic approach to it, it's always free improvised, you never know what you're going to expect. And most of these recordings come out of some live sections, like for example with the project's Birthdays and the self-titled picture disc. Those projects have at least something harsh into them. However, getting into this new project from Justice Yeldham, I'm not even really sure if he uses a piece of glass in these recordings. This sounds like something totally different. This sounds like something that we're not that much used to from him, from just the sound of the other releases. Something that is out of his comfort zone, something that is a bit risky for just a studio release. But in my opinion, it doesn't work. There is not really all that much that I have to say about this 4-piece album. I think that all I had to say about the project of Lucas Abela just sum up until this point. Further than that, I don't think there is a reason to care about this album in particular all that much, because this project in particular from Justice Yeldham, it doesn't show in any sense what he's truly and actually capable of. Because Fresh Books, even for noise standard, is extremely generic. And I don't want to sound like that noise elitist that has searched upon the most underground layers of harsh noise music and that this sounds bland and this sounds generic. But in terms of personal enjoyment, I don't find myself really enjoying that album all that much. For noise standards, this is pretty mediocre. It's just 4 tracks, Fresh Books and Octaputapus go for 40 minutes long, they are chaotic, they feel free improvised, but there is nothing engaging in them. I don't find the appeal that I would at least find from some of his previous studio works. I don't find something harsh, I don't find something really obscure. What he really does with these tracks most of the time is that he has some specific sounds and he just constantly uses cutoff and resonance, some LFO effects. Pretty basic and pretty unoriginal stuff that artists have done several years before, even in the underground and noise scene. And in this case in particular, there's nothing all that much to it. The biggest occasion of it is with the second track, Fresh Balls, which has nothing really all that interesting to it. The only one that sort of caught my attention was the third track, Your Mean, and kind of the beginning with Octaputaputapus, but the track dragged itself for so long and it just got out of touch with what he just began with. It's just a mess of an album. The main reason I do this video is because I think that Justice Yeldham is a really talented individual and one of the most obscure artists in the underground scene currently. It just happens to land in his weakest studio effort in my opinion. I really encourage you to go to listen some of his previous works, like Cicatrix or the self-titled Picture Disc. There are some solid performances in there. Or just go on YouTube and see some of his live performances if you just want something weird or shocking. But Fresh Books, like I said, doesn't show what Lucas Abela is actually capable of. This album is not proof of how much of a talented individual he is. This is a really mediocre, basic, run-of-the-mill and silly noise album. I'm going to give Fresh Books a 5 out of 10. What's your opinion on this album? Like it? Dislike it? Why? And what do you want me to review next time? Let me know down in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.